The royal Zerithian vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere with elegant precision. Princess Lyra stood at the command center, her six-fingered hands clasped behind her back to hide their slight trembling. This was most unusual for her, as the princess had visited 37 different worlds without ever feeling nervous. The ship landed at the human spaceport where a small, welcoming party waited. Captain Olivia Mason stood at attention, her auburn hair glowing in the sunlight. Lyra felt that strange flutter in her secondary heart again, a sensation she had spent many night cycles analyzing without conclusion. "Welcome to Earth, Your Highness," Captain Mason said with a formal bow that somehow still conveyed her natural confidence. "We are honored by your personal diplomatic visit." Lyra stepped onto Earth soil for the first time. The gravity felt slightly stronger than she was accustomed to, but her species adapted quickly. The air carried thousands of unfamiliar scents, making her sensory gills flare with excitement. "Thank you for your welcome, Captain Mason," Lyra said, managing to keep her voice steady despite the fluttering sensation. "I look forward to learning more about your world." Mason led the princess to a waiting transport vehicle, explaining that they would travel to the human capital city for formal meetings. Lyra found herself paying more attention to the captain's animated hand gestures than to the actual information being shared. The journey provided Lyra with her first glimpse of human civilization. Tall structures of glass and metal rose from carefully planned city centers, while smaller dwellings spread outward in organized patterns. The princess observed humans going about their daily activities with fascinating diversity of purpose and expression. "Your world is very alive," Lyra commented. "There is so much movement and color." Mason smiled. "Our cities never really sleep. Your Highness, humans tend to be an active bunch upon reaching the government complex." Lyra was introduced to various human officials. All were respectful, but none affected her the way Captain Mason did. The princess found herself seeking out the captain in every crowded room. The diplomatic schedule was filled with meetings, tours, and cultural exchanges. During a visit to a historical museum, Lyra learned about human development from primitive tribes to space travelers. The princess was particularly moved by exhibits showing human persistence through various hardships. "Your species has overcome many challenges," Lyra said as Mason guided her through displays of ancient artifacts. "Are stubborn that way," Captain Mason replied with a slight smile. "We fall down, but we keep getting back up." Lyra contemplated this quality, wondering if it might be connected to the human's unusual effect on her normally steady emotions. Perhaps their resilience created a unique energy that Zerithians could sense. During the formal state dinner, Lyra was seated beside high-ranking officials, but her attention kept drifting to Captain Mason, who sat further down the table. The captain caught her gaze several times, offering small smiles that caused the princess' skin to shimmer with involuntary bioluminescence, a Zerithian response typically reserved for moments of great significance. "Is everything to your satisfaction, Your Highness?" a human official asked. Noticing her distraction, "Yes, quite satisfactory," Lyra replied quickly, composing herself. "I find your customs fascinating." After dinner, Captain Mason was assigned to escort the princess to her quarters. "We have adapted this building section to match Zerithian environmental preferences," Mason explained. "The temperature, humidity, and lighting should be comfortable for you." Lyra was touched by this thoughtful accommodation. The humans had clearly studied Zerithian needs with care. Most species they encountered made only minimal adjustments, expecting visitors to adapt to local conditions. "Would you like to see something not on the official schedule?" Captain Mason asked unexpectedly once they were away from other officials. "Something more authentic?" Lyra's interest was immediately captured. "Yes, I would appreciate that very much." Mason led the princess to a small garden hidden within the government complex. Unlike the formal gardens they had toured earlier, this one was wild and natural, with plants growing in seemingly random patterns. "This is my favorite spot," Mason explained. "It's not manicured or designed. It's just Earth being Earth." Lyra felt an unexpected connection to this unstructured space. On her homeworld, everything was carefully arranged for maximum efficiency and aesthetic harmony. This garden, with its beautiful chaos, spoke to something deep within her. "Captain." Mason gestured, to a bench nestled among fragrant flowering plants. "Would you like to sit for a while, Your Highness? Most diplomats never get a moment to just experience Earth without someone explaining everything. Please call me Lyra when we are alone," Lyra said, surprising herself with the informal request. Such familiarity was not typical of Zerithian royal protocol. The captain smiled warmly. "Then you must call me Olivia." They sat together in the garden as the Earth sun began to set, casting everything in golden light. Lyra observed how the changing light transformed Olivia's features, highlighting the subtle variations in her skin tone and hair color. Zerithians did not change appearance with lighting, which made this human quality particularly fascinating. Olivia spoke of her childhood growing up near an ocean, her dreams of exploring space, and her hope that humans and Zerithians would become true allies. Lyra shared stories of her royal upbringing, the weight of diplomatic responsibility, and her secret desire to sometimes escape protocol. The princess realized they had been talking for hours, missing several scheduled meetings, but found she did not care. This simple conversation in a garden was teaching her more about humans than any formal briefing. As darkness fell, tiny lights began to glow throughout the garden. "Fireflies," Olivia explained, "small insects that create their own light to find each other. They remind me of Zerithian soul lights," Lyra said, watching the insects dance through the air. "On important nights, our bodies create similar patterns to celebrate connection." Olivia looked at the princess with genuine interest. "Would you show me sometime?" "Perhaps," Lyra replied, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "Yes, I think I would like that." When they finally left the garden, returning to the diplomatic quarters, Lyra felt changed in some fundamental way. The calm, diplomatic mask she had worn for centuries seemed less important now. In this garden with this human, she had experienced something authentic and unplanned. Princess Lyra realized that her journey to Earth might transform her far more than she would transform human understanding of Zerithians. And strangely, this did not frighten her at all. Days turned into weeks as Princess Lyra extended her stay on Earth, far beyond the originally planned diplomatic schedule. The Zerithian Royal Council sent concerned messages, which Lyra politely acknowledged, while continuing her extended mission. Each morning, she woke with a sense of anticipation unfamiliar to her carefully structured life. Olivia had been officially assigned as the princess cultural liaison, a position that allowed them to spend most days together. They had established a routine beginning with morning walks through different parts of the human city. Today, Olivia led Lyra to an open market where humans gathered to exchange goods. The cacophony of voices, smells, and colors overwhelmed Lyra's senses at first, but soon she found herself drawn into the lively atmosphere. "This is where real people live and work," Olivia explained as they walked between stalls of colorful fruits and handcrafted items. "Not government officials or diplomats, just everyday humans," Lyra observed, the interactions between vendors and customers, noting the casual conversations and frequent laughter. Such informal exchanges were rare on her homeworld, where most interactions followed strict social hierarchies. A small human child approached, staring at Lyra with undisguised curiosity. The princess froze, uncertain how to respond to such a direct approach. "Are you really an alien?" The child asked, her eyes wide. "Yes, I am from a planet called Zareth," Lyra replied carefully. The child's mother rushed over, apologizing profusely. "I'm so sorry, Your Highness, Lily has no filter," Olivia laughed gently. "No need for apologies. Children ask the questions. Adults are too polite to voice." Lyra knelt to the child's level, a gesture that would shock the royal court. "Your people and my people are new friends. I am here to learn about humans just as you are learning about Zerithians." The child beamed with delight. "Can I touch your skin? It looks sparkly." Before the horrified mother could intervene, Lyra extended her hand, allowing the child to touch her iridescent skin. The simple contact sent ripples of blue light cascading across the princess' arm. "Wow," the child gasped. "You light up?" "Yes, when we feel strong emotions, our bodies create light," Lyra explained. After the encounter, Olivia led Lyra through the rest of the market, purchasing small treats for them to sample. The princess tasted sweet fruits, spicy prepared foods, and a cold dessert called ice cream, each new flavor bringing expressions of surprise that made Olivia laugh. "You should see your face when you try something new," Olivia said. Her own face showed something Lyra was beginning to recognize as affection. In the afternoon, they visited a nature preserve where earth animals roamed in protected habitats. Lyra was particularly fascinated by creatures called elephants, their size and intelligence reminding her of sacred animals from Zerithian folklore. "They seem so wise," Lyra commented, watching the matriarch lead her herd to a watering hole. Olivia nodded. They remember everything their ancestors experienced, knowledge passed down through generations. Some human cultures believe they carry the souls of elders. Zerithians believe something similar about our crystal singers, Lyra said, feeling an unexpected connection between their worlds. "Perhaps we are not so different after all." As twilight approached, Olivia brought Lyra to a hillside overlooking the city. "I thought you might enjoy watching the sunset from here," she said, spreading a blanket on the grass. Another human custom, Lyra sat beside Olivia closer than protocol would permit. But the princess found herself caring less about such rules with each passing day. The setting sun painted the sky with colors Zerith never displayed, vibrant oranges and pinks that reflected in Olivia's eyes. "I received another message from the Royal Council today," Lyra said, breaking a comfortable silence. "They are questioning the extended length of my stay." Olivia's expression fell slightly. "Will you need to return soon?" Lyra hesitated. "I told them the diplomatic situation requires my continued presence." "And does it?" Olivia asked, her voice soft. The princess considered the question. The treaty was signed weeks ago. The formal diplomatic mission was complete, but something else had begun, something Lyra did not yet have words to describe. "There is much I still need to learn about humans," Lyra replied carefully, watching emotions play across Olivia's expressive face. The human smiled, reaching out to touch Lyra's hand lightly. "Then I'm glad you're staying." The simple contact sent waves of light cascading beneath the princess' skin, illuminating the growing darkness around them. Neither mentioned the display, though Olivia gently traced the patterns with her fingertips. Night fell completely. They lay back on the blanket, looking up at the stars. Olivia pointed out constellations, explaining the human stories behind each pattern. Lyra shared Zerithian star knowledge, in return their different perspectives merging into a new understanding of the same sky. "From this angle I can see your home star," Olivia said, pointing to a bright point of light. "Do you miss it?" Lyra considered the question. In all her diplomatic journeys, she had always felt the pull of home, the desire to return to familiar surroundings and customs. "But now I find myself strangely content here," she admitted. "More than content, perhaps." Olivia turned on her side to face the princess. "What happens when diplomats from different worlds become friends? Is there a protocol for that?" Lyra laughed softly. "There are 17 volumes of protocol for interspecies diplomatic relations, but they say nothing about friendship. The concept is considered too personal for official guidance. Then we are in uncharted territory." Olivia said, her voice carrying a hint of something deeper than simple amusement. The princess felt a now familiar flutter in her secondary heart. "Yes, I believe we are." The following day brought an unexpected development. A message arrived from the Zerithian High Council announcing that a royal delegation would arrive within days to evaluate the diplomatic progress. Olivia found Lyra in the garden, their special place, looking troubled. "What has happened?" she asked, immediately sensing the princess' distress. "My cousin Prince Kelvin is coming to Earth with a delegation. They claim it is a routine diplomatic extension. But I know my cousin. He questions my extended stay here. Will this cause problems for you?" Olivia asked, concern evident in her voice. Lyra sighed, a very human gesture she had unconsciously adopted. "Kelvin has always believed he would make a better ambassador than me. He will look for any deviation from protocol, any sign that I have become too influenced by human ways." Olivia sat beside the princess. "I could step back while he's here, return to formal protocols." "No," Lyra said with surprising firmness. "I will not pretend to be something I am not." Not anymore. Meeting you, experiencing Earth, it has changed me. I cannot return to being only a diplomatic symbol. Olivia's eyes widened at the declaration. What will you do? I will show my cousin the truth. Lyra said, determination replacing her earlier worry. That Zerithians have much to learn from humans, that our rigid adherence to ancient ways might be limiting our growth as a species. And if he disagrees? Lyra took Olivia's hand, deliberately initiating contact for the first time. Then I will have a decision to make, one that no princess in Zerithian history has ever faced. The Zerithian royal vessel emerged from hyperspace with imperial fanfare significantly larger and more ornate than Princess Lyra's diplomatic ship. Prince Kelvin had brought 3 times the standard diplomatic contingent. A clear statement of authority. Lyra stood at the landing platform, her formal robes uncomfortable after weeks of wearing simpler Earth attire. Olivia stood several paces behind her position, now officially reduced to security escort rather than cultural liaison. The ship doors opened, revealing Prince Kelvin, tall even for a Zerithian, his skin a deeper blue denoting direct royal lineage. He wore traditional diplomatic armor rather than robes, signaling his view of Earth as a potentially hostile environment. Cousin Kelvin said with a formal bow that conveyed no actual respect. I come bearing concerns from the High Council. I welcome you to Earth, Cousin Lyra replied, maintaining protocol despite her irritation. The humans have prepared appropriate accommodations for your delegation. Kelvin surveyed the human welcoming committee with barely concealed disdain. I trust you have maintained proper diplomatic distance during your extended stay. Lyra felt Olivia's presence behind her like a physical warmth. I have formed a comprehensive understanding of human culture which will benefit our people. The prince made a dismissive gesture. We shall discuss your findings in private. The following hours tested Lyra's patience, as Kelvin criticized everything from human architecture to their governance systems. The prince and his advisors spoke in Zerithian deliberately, excluding the humans present, including Olivia. Their technology is primitive by our standards. Kelvin noted their emotional nature makes them unpredictable. The High Council questions the wisdom of a close alliance. Lyra maintained her diplomatic composure, though internally she seethed. You judge based on superficial observations, cousin. Humans possess qualities our people have lost in our pursuit of perfect order. Kelvin raised an eyebrow. You speak as an advocate rather than an objective observer. Perhaps the council was right to question your extended stay. Later that evening at the formal reception, honoring the Zerithian delegation, Prince Kelvin monopolized conversations, with Earth officials steering discussions toward Zerithian superiority in technology and social structure. Lyra watched with growing concern as human representatives became increasingly uncomfortable. When Kelvin began describing the rational nature of Zerithian emotional control as evolutionarily superior, Lyra could remain silent no longer. Our emotional control evolved from necessity due to our telepathic sensitivities. Cousin, she interrupted. It is not inherently superior, merely different. Humans channel their emotions into creativity and innovation in ways we might learn from. The room fell silent at this public disagreement between royal representatives. Kelvin's expression darkened. You overstep, princess. The diplomatic position represents the empire, not personal opinions. I represent a full understanding of our potential allies, Lyra replied, refusing to back down. Something you cannot claim after mere hours on their world. Kelvin switched to formal Zerithian. You have been contaminated by human disorder, cousin. Your judgment is compromised. I will recommend your immediate recall to the homeworld. For purification. Lyra felt cold fear at his words. Purification was a rarely used process to remove foreign influences from diplomats who had gone native on other worlds. It would erase her memories of Earth, of Olivia. The princess excused herself, needing space to think. Finding a quiet balcony, she gazed at the night sky, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Are you okay? Olivia asked, quietly joining her on the balcony. I don't speak Zerithian, but that looked intense. Lyra turned to her friend, struggling to maintain composure. Kelvin threatens to have me recalled and purified. It would remove my memories of Earth, make me suitable for imperial service again. Olivia's face showed shock and then determination. They can do that against your will. Technically, no, Lyra admitted, but refusing would mean exile from the Empire, abandoning my position duties. Family. Everything. Olivia stepped closer. What do you want? Not what duty demands, but what you truly want. No one had ever asked Lyra that question. From birth, her path had been determined by royal obligation. What did she want? Looking at Olivia in the moonlight, the answer became suddenly clear. I want to be free to make my own choices, she whispered. To explore this connection between us without imperial protocols, dictating every interaction. Olivia took her hand. The human government's official position is that forced memory alteration would violate our newly signed treaty, specifically the Sentient Rights Clause. Lyra blinked in surprise. You would invoke diplomatic protection. Earth protects its friends, Olivia said simply, and I would personally fight anyone who tried to take you, against your will. The princess felt warmth spread through her chest at these words. In that moment she made her decision, one that would change the course of Zerithian imperial policy forever. The next morning, Lyra requested a formal audience with both the human diplomatic corps and the Zerithian delegation. Prince Kelvin arrived, expecting to announce the princess' recall. Instead, Lyra stood before both delegations, her posture reflecting new determination. As imperial representative to Earth, I am invoking Section 12 of the Treaty of Mutual Understanding, she announced. Her voice rang clear through the chamber. Kelvin frowned. Section 12 was a minor provision about cultural exchange programs. This section allows for diplomatic personnel to request extended immersion in allied cultures. Lyra continued, I am formally requesting a 5-year cultural exchange position here on Earth to further strengthen our alliance. Impossible, Kelvin sputtered. You are royal blood. A princess of the Empire. Lyra faced him directly. I am first and foremost a diplomat, cousin. My royal blood makes my request more meaningful, not less. The Empire will demonstrate its commitment to understanding human culture through my continued presence here. The human officials nodded in approval, while Kelvin's advisors whispered urgently among themselves. The prince was trapped by protocol. To deny her request would insult the humans and contradict imperial diplomatic tradition. Kelvin switched again to Zerithian. You choose humans over your own people. Lyra replied in standard, ensuring everyone understood. I choose understanding over ignorance, connection over isolation, and growth over stagnation. These are imperial values, cousin. Our ancestors explored the stars with the same spirit I now apply to human relations. A senior human diplomat stood. This request honors our treaty and strengthens our alliance. Earth welcomes. Princess Lyra's extended mission, backed into a diplomatic corner. Kelvin could only fume silently. The humans clearly supported Lyra, and creating an interspecies incident would damage his own standing with the High Council. Very well, he said finally. I will convey your request to the Imperial Court. But know this, cousin, your actions today will have consequences. When the prince and his delegation departed 2 days later, Lyra stood watching their ship ascend, feeling both liberation and uncertainty. She had never defied imperial will before. Olivia joined her as the ship disappeared from view. So you get to stay for 5 years at least, Lyra confirmed. Perhaps longer if the cultural exchange proves valuable. And will it? Olivia asked, a smile playing at her lips. Lyra allowed her skin to shimmer with light, not hiding her emotional response. I believe it already has. 3 months after Prince Kelvin's departure, Princess Lyra had established a new routine on Earth. She now lived in a private residence near the diplomatic quarter, rather than in the official embassy. Her home combined Zerithian environmental comforts, with human design elements symbolizing her increasingly dual identity. Lyra had begun teaching at the Interspecies Cultural Institute, sharing Zerithian history, art, and philosophy with eager human students. Their questions often surprised her, pushing her to reconsider aspects of her own culture she had always taken for granted. Olivia, now officially the head of Human Zerithian Security Cooperation, visited nearly every day. Their relationship had deepened, though neither had put formal words to the connection growing between them. One morning, Lyra received an urgent message from the Zerithian homeworld. The Imperial Court had finally responded to her cultural exchange request with unexpected news. Olivia found the princess staring at the message screen, her skin flickering with conflicting emotions. "What's happened?" she asked, immediately concerned. "The High Council has approved my cultural exchange," Lyra said, her voice unsteady. "But they have stripped me of my royal title. I am now simply Citizen Lyra." Diplomatic representative Olivia sat beside her. "Is this their way of punishing you?" Lyra considered the question. "For generations, my identity has been defined by royal obligations. Now I am free of those constraints, but also disconnected from my family's legacy. It is both liberation and loss. Do you regret your choice?" Lyra looked at Olivia, her skin settling into a calm blue glow. "No, I do not regret choosing this path. But I must redefine who I am now over the following weeks." Lyra embraced her new status with growing confidence. She redesigned her diplomatic uniform, removing royal insignia and incorporating elements of human professional attire. Without royal protocols, limiting her actions, she began exploring Earth culture more deeply. Olivia introduced her to music, an art form Zerithians appreciated primarily for mathematical harmony rather than emotional resonance. Together, they attended concerts experiencing everything from classical orchestras to energetic rock performances. "I never understood why humans create music that deliberately lacks precision," Lyra confessed after a particularly passionate jazz performance. "But now I see the beauty in improvisation, the joy of creating something unique in each moment. You sound less Zerithian." Every day, Olivia teased, though her eyes showed approval. "Perhaps I am becoming something new." Lyra replied, something neither fully Zerithian nor human, but a bridge between worlds. Their personal relationship evolved alongside Lyra's cultural transformation. The first time Olivia kissed her during a sunset walk through the botanical gardens, Lyra's bioluminescence flared so brightly it was visible even in daylight. "Is this okay?" Olivia asked, her hand gently cupping Lyra's face. The former princess, smiled. "I have been hoping you would do that for approximately 74 Earth days," Olivia laughed. "You counted. I am still Zerithian in some ways," Lyra replied before initiating a second kiss. 6 months into her cultural exchange, Lyra received another message from home. This one carried the imperial seal, marking it as coming directly from the emperor himself, her great-uncle. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The message was brief but shocking. "Reports of your cultural integration have reached the imperial family. The emperor requests your presence on the homeworld immediately to discuss new diplomatic initiatives." Lyra shared the message with Olivia, her emotions conflicted. "I must return home at least temporarily. Is this a trap?" Olivia asked, voicing the fear Lyra herself felt. "Could Kelvin have convinced the emperor to recall you for purification?" Lyra shook her head. "The imperial seal cannot be used falsely even by princes. The emperor himself wishes to see me, though his purpose remains unclear." When Olivia volunteered to accompany her, Lyra felt a surge of gratitude. No human had ever visited the imperial palace. Even most Zerithians were denied such access. As their ship approached the Zerithian homeworld, Lyra felt strange, a visitor to her birthplace. Her year on Earth had changed her perspective, making the perfect geometric cities and carefully maintained environments seem sterile rather than orderly. Olivia gazed out at the approaching planet. "It's beautiful," she said, softly. "Like living crystal, it is highly engineered," Lyra explained. "Every mountain, river, and forest placed with mathematical precision. Our ancestors believed perfect order reflected perfect thought." The imperial palace dominated the central city, its crystalline spires reflecting the light of twin suns. Royal guards escorted them through halls Lyra had once walked daily, now feeling foreign beneath her feet. The emperor awaited them in his private garden, rather than the formal throne room, a sign of personal, rather than official business. He was ancient even by Zerithian standards, his skin faded to pale lavender with age. "Great-uncle," Lyra said, Bowing deeply, I return as requested. The Emperor studied her with keen eyes. You have changed, child. Your energy signatures show human influences clearly now. He turned his gaze to Olivia. And this is the human who has captured your attention. Olivia bowed respectfully. Captain Olivia Mason, Your Imperial Majesty. The Emperor gestured for them to sit, a rare honor. Come tell me of Earth. Not the diplomatic reports I have read those, but your personal experiences. The truth of human connection, surprised Lyra shared her journey from rigid princess to cultural explorer. She described human art, emotion, and adaptability. The Emperor listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he remained silent for several moments before speaking. Prince Kelvin believes you have been corrupted by human disorder, that your actions threaten imperial tradition. Lyra tensed, preparing to defend herself. The Emperor continued, But I am old enough to remember when Zerithians were explorers, not just diplomats, when we sought new experiences rather than perfect order. Our empire has grown stagnant, Lyra. Our perfect society no longer evolves. Lyra stared at her great-uncle in shock. What are you saying? The Emperor rose, walking slowly among his carefully arranged plants. Once these gardens brought me peace. Now I see only stasis. He turned to face them. I have watched your transformation with interest. Your reports, your behavior, even your emotional signatures. You have grown in ways no purification protocol could improve. Olivia spoke carefully. You approve of her changes. The ancient Zerithian nodded. For centuries we have sent diplomats to observe other species while remaining separate. Now I wonder if that approach has limited us. He fixed his gaze on Lyra. I am appointing you Ambassador of Cultural Evolution, a new position with a new purpose. Not to represent Zerithian ways to others, but to bring beneficial change back to our people. Lyra felt overwhelming emotion at his words. You wish me to continue my relationship with humans, with this human specifically, the Emperor said, gesturing to Olivia, whose influence on you has clearly been profound, and with others who challenge our assumptions. Captain Mason will receive imperial diplomatic status, allowing her access to our world, just as you have access to hers. Lyra glanced at Olivia, seeing her surprise and joy. You would allow a human into the imperial court. The Emperor made a sound almost like human laughter. I would require it. Transformation cannot happen from a distance. You and your human partner will demonstrate a new kind of connection between species. When they left the imperial palace, Lyra felt as though the ground beneath her had shifted again. But this time, the change was happening to her world, not just within herself. The Emperor believes our connection can change Zerithian society, Lyra said, still processing the implications. Olivia took her hand. That sounds like a lot of pressure. Lyra smiled, her skin glowing with newfound purpose, perhaps. Or perhaps it is simply recognition of what we have already begun. Is their ship prepared to return to Earth? Lyra gazed at her homeworld with new eyes. She was no longer just Princess Lyra, or even Citizen Lyra. She had become something unprecedented, a bridge between worlds, a catalyst for evolution. And beside her stood Olivia, a human soldier, who had accomplished what no diplomat ever could, changing an empire not through force or formal negotiations, but through the simple power of connection. 2 years later, the cultural exchange program between Earth and Zereth had expanded beyond anything initially imagined. 50 human specialists now lived and worked on the Zerithian homeworld, while 30 Zerithian citizens experienced life on Earth. This unprecedented intermingling of species had begun changing both societies in subtle but significant ways. At the center of this transformation stood Ambassador Lyra and Captain Olivia Mason. Their partnership, both professional and personal, had become a symbol of successful interspecies cooperation. Today they prepared for the most ambitious project, yet the opening of the first joint human-Zerithian research facility. The Institute for Evolutionary Cooperation would be housed in a striking building that combined Zerithian crystalline architecture with human organic design elements. Lyra adjusted her ceremonial attire, a unique blend of her former royal robes and a human formal suit. The hybrid style had become popular among younger Zerithians eager to incorporate elements of human fashion. "Are you nervous?" Olivia asked, straightening her own formal uniform. Now adorned with both Earth and Zerithian insignia, Lyra allowed her skin to flicker with genuine emotion. No longer, hiding her feelings behind diplomatic calm. "It feels like the culmination of everything we have worked toward. These past 2 years have transformed both our worlds in ways I never imagined possible." "Prince Kelvin still objects to every initiative," Olivia noted with a slight smile. "He submitted another formal protest yesterday." Lyra made a very human gesture, shrugging her shoulders. "His resistance actually strengthens our position. Every dire prediction he makes fails to materialize. His warnings of cultural contamination seem increasingly paranoid as positive outcomes multiply." The Institute stood on neutral ground, a small island in Earth's Pacific Ocean, donated specifically for this purpose. The building gleamed in the morning sunlight. As delegates from both worlds gathered for the opening ceremony, Ambassador Lyra took her position at the podium, conscious of the historic nature of this moment. "2 years ago, I stood before you as a princess, representing an empire that had remained essentially unchanged for 1,000 years," she began. "Today I stand before you as a citizen of 2 worlds, representing not just Zerith but the future we are creating together." She gestured to the assembled scientists, engineers, and cultural specialists from both species. "Look around you. Humans and Zerithians working side by side, not as separate species maintaining careful diplomatic distance, but as colleagues, friends, and in some cases family. We have discovered that our differences complement, rather than divide us." Olivia watched from nearby, her pride evident. Lyra had become a powerful speaker, blending Zerithian precision with human passion. The effect was mesmerizing to both species. "This institute will focus on 7 key research areas," Lyra continued, "each combining Zerithian and human strengths. Zerithian mathematical precision with human intuitive leaps. Zerithian longevity with human adaptability. Zerithian telepathic sensitivity with human emotional intelligence. Together we will solve problems neither species could address alone." As the ceremony concluded with the symbolic activation of the Institute's central computer system, a joint creation of human and Zerithian technology, Lyra found herself reflecting on her personal journey. Once she had been the perfect embodiment of Zerithian diplomatic tradition, calm, controlled, and carefully distant. Now her emotions showed clearly in the patterns of light rippling beneath her skin. Her thoughts and words flowed with human spontaneity while retaining Zerithian clarity. Her very being had become a bridge between worlds. Later that evening, Lyra and Olivia stood on the Institute's observation deck, watching the sunset over the ocean. 2 of Earth's years had passed since their first sunset together on that hillside. An eye blink by Zerithian standards, a significant period in human life. "Did you ever imagine we'd come this far?" Olivia asked, taking Lyra's hand, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that had become natural. Despite the anatomical differences, Lyra shook her head. "The diplomatic princess I once was could never have envisioned this. She lived in a world of careful protocols and measured outcomes. But you taught me to embrace uncertainty to find strength in adaptation. And you taught me to see patterns where I once saw only chaos." Olivia replied that sometimes the long view matters more than immediate results. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Lyra's communication device. A message from the Imperial Palace displayed with highest priority. "The Emperor requests your immediate return. Ambassador, urgent developments require your presence." Olivia read the message over Lyra's shoulder. Trouble. Lyra considered the wording. The Emperor would not use urgent lightly. Something significant has happened. They departed for Zerith, immediately arriving to find the Imperial Court in unprecedented disorder. The Emperor had called an open council. Something not done in 7 generations. Every level of Zerithian society was represented, from royal family members to ordinary citizens. When Lyra and Olivia entered the Great Hall, a hush fell over the assembled Zerithians. The Emperor gestured for them to approach the central dais. Ambassador D. Emperor, said his voice carrying throughout the chamber, I have summoned you to witness a historic decision. After extensive observation of the human Zerithian exchange program, the Imperial Court has voted on a fundamental restructuring of our society. Lyra felt Olivia's hand tighten around hers. What kind of restructuring? For 10,000 years, our civilization has prioritized order, stability, and carefully managed progress, the Emperor explained. But we have observed something remarkable in our exchange with humans. The controlled introduction of human adaptability. Creative thinking and emotional expression has revitalized aspects of our society that had grown stagnant. He gestured to displays showing comparative data. The Zerithian scientists working alongside humans have produced 30% more innovations than control groups. Our artists exposed to human creative processes have developed entirely new forms of expression. Even our birth rates have increased as citizens embrace greater emotional connection. Lyra struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what the Emperor was suggesting. You propose to deliberately incorporate human characteristics into Zerithian society, not through genetic modification or forced change, the Emperor clarified, but through continued cultural exchange, expanded education, and the encouragement of those naturally drawn to this integrated approach. You and Captain Mason have demonstrated that one can embrace change without losing Zerithian identity. Prince Kelvin stepped forward, his face tight with anger. This is madness. Our perfect society has maintained stability for millennia. These changes risk everything our ancestors built. The Emperor regarded his grandson with patience. Change is inevitable. Kelvin. The question is whether we direct it or are directed by it. The humans have shown us that adaptation is not weakness, but strength. Not disorder, but a higher form of order. That embracing diversity of thought creates resilience. Lyra felt overwhelmed. By the implications, the Emperor was proposing nothing less than a fundamental shift in Zerithian philosophy, from perfect stasis to guided evolution. What role would you have us play in this transformation? She asked, aware that both human and Zerithian futures might hang on this question. The Emperor gestured to an ancient mural depicting the first Zerithian explorers to leave their homeworld. They came to this chamber seeking permission to venture into the unknown. Their journey changed us forever, just as yours has. Now we ask you to lead another expedition, not to distant stars but into a future where our species grow together. Later, as Lyra and Olivia discussed the implications of the Emperor's declaration, they realized how profoundly their personal connection had altered the course of interstellar relations. When I first met you, I was flustered by the unfamiliar emotions you stirred in me, Lyra said, tracing the lines of Olivia's palm with her fingertips. I never imagined that feeling would ripple outward, changing an empire. Olivia smiled. You were so composed, so perfect, I just wanted to see what would happen if I could make you laugh. Really, I was just flirting with a pretty alien princess. Lyra laughed, her skin illuminating the room with patterns of joy. I believe humans call that the butterfly effect. A small action creating vast consequences. As they stood together at the viewport, watching stars that no longer separated their worlds, Lyra reflected on how far they had come from princess and captain to ambassadors of a new kind of future. One where the calm alien princess had not only been flustered by a human soldier, but had found in that disruption the key to evolving two civilizations. Sometimes the most profound diplomatic breakthrough isn't found in formal treaties, Lyra mused, but in the simple courage to allow oneself to change. Olivia pulled her close. The universe keeps expanding, Ambassador. I wonder what we'll discover next. Lyra let her forehead rest against Olivia's in the Zerithian gesture of deepest connection. Whatever it is, we will face it together. Two species. Two perspectives. One shared future.